Leaders who never raise their voice win everything, while those who rely on volume and aggression to control others consistently lose respect, loyalty, and effectiveness over time. What I am about to explain will revolutionize your understanding of real authority versus performed dominance, because the most powerful leaders throughout history have understood something about human psychology that loud, aggressive managers never learn. People respond more positively to confident calm than to desperate urgency. And sustainable influence comes from being someone others want to follow rather than someone they feel forced to obey. This principle is so counterintuitive to most people's assumptions about leadership that recognizing it immediately separates you from the majority of individuals who confuse intimidation with inspiration and mistake fear-based compliance for genuine respect and loyalty. But here is what makes this approach so devastatingly effective. When you never raise your voice, every word you speak carries more weight because people know it comes from thoughtful consideration rather than emotional reaction. And your rare moments of intensity have exponentially greater impact because they contrast sharply with your normal composed demeanor. Let me explain exactly why calm leadership creates superior results and how you can develop this capability, even if your natural tendency is toward more emotional or aggressive responses to challenging situations. The first psychological mechanism that makes quiet leadership superior is that it creates safety and trust rather than anxiety and defensiveness, which allows people to think clearly and contribute their best ideas rather than focusing on protecting themselves from criticism or punishment. When leaders communicate through yelling, intimidation, or emotional outbursts, they trigger fight-or-flight responses in others that shut down higher-level thinking and creativity, while activating defensive behaviors that prioritize self-preservation over organizational objectives. People cannot perform at their highest level when they are afraid, anxious, or constantly monitoring the emotional state of their leader to avoid triggering negative reactions. But when leaders maintain consistent emotional stability, regardless of external pressures or challenges, they create psychological safety that allows others to focus on problem-solving, innovation, and peak performance rather than emotional management and political maneuvering, designed to avoid conflict with unpredictable authority figures. The second mechanism is that calm leaders are perceived as more competent and trustworthy, because their emotional regulation suggests confidence in their own capabilities and judgment that does not need to be defended through aggressive displays of dominance. When someone yells or becomes emotionally reactive during challenging situations, observers unconsciously interpret this behavior as evidence of insecurity, lack of control, or insufficient confidence in their position or decision-making abilities. Leaders who can remain composed under pressure demonstrate mastery over themselves that naturally extends to confidence in their mastery over external situations and challenges. This perception of competence creates a positive feedback loop where people are more willing to cooperate with and support leaders they believe are capable and reliable, which makes the leader more effective and reinforces their actual competence over time. Emotional stability becomes both a cause and effect of successful leadership because it creates conditions that lead to better outcomes, which justify the confidence that creates the stability in the first place. The third mechanism involves the power of contrast and selective intensity that makes calm leaders far more influential when they do choose to display stronger emotions or take decisive action. When someone normally maintains an even temperament and measured responses, their occasional displays of concern, excitement, or determination carry exponential impact because they signal that the situation truly deserves heightened attention and response. Employees who work for consistently calm leaders pay much closer attention to subtle changes in tone or demeanor because these changes are rare and therefore meaningful, while those who work for volatile leaders learn to ignore emotional displays because they happen frequently and often for reasons that have nothing to do with actual priorities or genuine concerns. This selective intensity allows calm leaders to communicate urgency and importance without having to escalate to dramatic displays that undermine their credibility or create unnecessary stress and anxiety in others. Their authority is enhanced rather than diminished by restraint, because people understand that when they do become more assertive or concerned, the situation genuinely warrants increased attention and action. The fourth psychological advantage of quiet leadership is that it invites cooperation rather than demanding submission, which creates genuine buy-in and commitment, rather than mere compliance that disappears when the leader is not present to enforce their demands through continued pressure or surveillance. People naturally resist being controlled through force or intimidation, even when they comply outwardly, because such treatment triggers psychological reactance that motivates them to restore their sense of autonomy and dignity through passive resistance, minimal effort, or active sabotage when opportunities arise. But quiet leadership works with human psychology rather than against it, by creating situations where people feel like they are choosing to cooperate with someone they respect, rather than being forced to submit to someone they fear. This voluntary cooperation is far more sustainable and effective than coerced compliance, because it engages intrinsic motivation rather than relying on external pressure that must be constantly maintained to remain effective. When people feel respected and valued by their leaders, they naturally want to perform well and contribute to shared success, rather than just meeting minimum requirements to avoid punishment or criticism. The fifth advantage is that calm leaders attract higher quality people and retain top performers who would not tolerate working for volatile or abusive authority figures, which creates positive selection effects that improve organizational capability and culture over time. Talented individuals with options naturally gravitate toward leaders who treat them professionally and create environments where they can do their best work without having to manage their leader's emotional instability or navigate unpredictable reactions to normal business challenges and setbacks. Conversely, leaders who rely on volume and aggression tend to lose their most capable people while attracting individuals who are either too insecure to demand better treatment or too incompetent to have alternatives, which creates downward spirals in organizational performance and morale. The ability to recruit and retain excellent people is one of the most important capabilities any leader can develop, and it is directly related to creating work environments that people genuinely want to be part of rather than environments they tolerate because they lack better options. But here is what makes developing quiet leadership authority so challenging. It requires genuine confidence and competence that cannot be faked through performance or technique, because the composure must come from real capability rather than suppressed anxiety or insecurity. Leaders who try to appear calm while feeling internally chaotic or uncertain will eventually reveal their true state under pressure, which destroys credibility and trust more dramatically than if they had been honest about their limitations from the beginning. Developing authentic quiet leadership requires simultaneously building genuine expertise and judgment that justify confidence while developing emotional regulation skills that allow you to maintain composure even when facing uncertainty, criticism, or failure. This is a gradual process that involves practicing calm responses in low-stakes situations until they become automatic, studying and learning continuously, so your confidence is based on real knowledge rather than wishful thinking, and developing support systems and stress management techniques that help you maintain perspective during challenging periods. It also requires learning to separate your ego from your role, so that criticism or disagreement with your decisions does not feel like personal attacks that require defensive responses. So how do you begin developing the quiet authority that makes people want to follow your leadership rather than just comply with your demands? Start by practicing active listening in every interaction rather than thinking about what you want to say next or how you can control the conversation to achieve your preferred outcomes. Learn to ask questions that help others think more clearly about challenges and opportunities, rather than immediately providing solutions or directions that may not fit their understanding or capabilities. Develop genuine expertise in your field so that your confidence is based on real knowledge and experience rather than position power or performance tactics. Practice maintaining composure during stressful situations by focusing on problems that need to be solved rather than emotions that need to be expressed or people that need to be blamed for difficulties. And most importantly, shift your focus from getting respect and recognition to providing value and support that makes others more successful and effective in their own roles and responsibilities. When you genuinely care about other people's success and demonstrate that care through consistent actions rather than just words, you naturally develop the kind of quiet authority that inspires voluntary cooperation and long-term loyalty. If you are ready to stop competing for attention and start building the kind of leadership presence that commands genuine respect without demanding it through force or volume, follow this channel and turn on notifications. The most effective leaders are often the quietest ones because they understand that true authority comes from competence and character rather than performance and pressure. What is one situation where you could practice quiet leadership this week instead of trying to control outcomes through emotional intensity or aggressive behavior? How might developing